Hey there folks, Paul S. here once again. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I don't usually talk about, and it's quantized instruments. Now, I usually keep my mouth shut about these things because I like to put out quality content of a different variety, whether it's, you know, back in the day it was guitar reviews or pedal demos or whatever it might have been. But this is something that I felt I should speak up on because I'm definitely someone who utilizes quantized instrumentation. Except I don't really use it on my guitars, and I have a few reasons behind my logic. So whenever I think about people who are anti-MIDI drums, anti-MIDI anything, I go back to the late 70s in terms of my mind and in the history of music and production, and I think of poor Gary Newman, who was making his electronic stuff back in the day. Now, Gary Newman was a guy who was supposed to cut a punk rock album, but he ended up doing electronic stuff, which was not what his label wanted, and it was very, very panned by the critics, but people ate it up. People loved the song Cars and things like that, right? It was to the point, however, that people would accuse him that he's getting rid of jobs for real musicians and things like that because he's using computers, and it just seemed so dark age kind of primitive thinking in my mind. So I feel like the argument hasn't changed. The technology has gotten obviously more and more impressive, the production has gotten better and better, but like the argument that using MIDI drums is not metal is to me like absolutely backwards, completely backwards. Depends on the genre that you're trying to encapsulate. I feel like a lot of the hallmarks of the current progressive metal, technical death metal stuff is absolutely into what's at the very forefront. If they're unable to get that perfect thing, they want to get that perfect thing. This sound is very specific to a couple of genres in my mind. If you hear back in the day the big scandal of the time with that band, the Heart Machine, they did the whole record basically quantized from what I understand of the situation, and there's this massive drama about it and big artists and everyone getting upset with each other, and it's just like, that was the recording technique, you know? That was the way that they decided to do it. And I remember personally feeling very upset about it because it was like, I'll never sound like that, that's impossible. And then I started to try and understand the point of view of the drummers out there who were like, well, I'll never be able to blast at the full velocity at 250 BPM, that's impossible. And so I understand that. But when it comes down to production at home, doing pre-production, doing things like that, I appreciate being able to load up Superior Drummer 3, which arguably is the scariest piece of technology I've ever purchased to utilize in music, because I can absolutely rely on it. And I just greatly enjoy it. And if I ever had a drummer in person, I always valued them above the technology. I think what some might be afraid of is the devaluation of musicians, which the musicians are already so badly devalued in the first place, right? Like, people are trying to give their music away and no one will listen, no one cares, and it's really hard to break out into the market, yada yada, you've heard that all before. But I think for musicians, always value having someone there to play it, you know? If it comes back to playing with samples live, I don't think that should be anything to be worried about, unless it's literally a guitar arpeggios being played and the guitar player is just miming something. I mean, at that point it's kind of like, well, they couldn't play it tight enough, you know, and that's on them. That's not up to anyone else. It's on them to get good at guitar, you know? So I feel like even though there is this kind of massive hatred of anything that's produced to the point of where technology is right now in terms of drum samples, in terms of using a bass virtual instrument or even a guitar virtual instrument, or using, I mean, back in the day it was mostly about auto-tune and things like that with the voice because no one could actually get there. But then live you would see that they can't get there, and so at the end of the day I feel like what is metal is obviously up to personal definition, but I'm not anti-technology by any means. I think that it's much more worthwhile to aspire to a sound. So let me roll it back a little bit. Maybe I'm sounding a bit hypocritical right now because I said that I got really upset when someone else used quantized guitars because I would never get there. But the value in understanding that it's quantized also helped me to persevere to get better at my guitar playing. I took it from a different point of view completely, where I was able to realize, okay, I can't get it to sound like that, but how close can I get it? That's the mindset of someone who wants to progress in music. I think sitting back in your chair and getting upset about all this stuff is ridiculous. I personally love all of the technology that's coming out. It's super impressive, super creative, super inspiring. I've never had the ability to write music this vastly in terms of all the genres I've wanted to encapsulate before, and it's thanks to all this stuff. So again, I don't talk about my opinions very much on the new digital age of software and software versus musician or whatever. I'm here as someone who really loves to create music, and I understand the moments where it's got its shortcomings in terms of software, and where I've got my shortcomings in terms of a musician and a guitar player. But I love the grind of it. I love practicing. I really enjoy it. I think it's the best thing. The best way to spend a day for me is 6 hours of guitar practice with a pot of coffee and some food here and there. You know, I'm spending time bettering myself. And if a piece of software helps me to push myself even further, like if I'm not tight enough, you're gonna hear it if it's something quantized with the drums and the click track, right? And I'm gonna be furious with myself. I'm gonna definitely persevere and get better and get better. So I use it as a learning tool more than as something that, oh yeah, I'm never gonna actually hire a drummer. If I had the money, I would absolutely do it. And that argument sucks for some people. So, but what can I tell you? I'd love to hire drummers for the certain things that I'd like to do. And I've definitely been looking into switching over from using Superior Drummer. Superior Drummer has just been not exactly a crutch, it's been a creative way to express the song in the extreme way that I want it to be expressed. Now, I leave that up to interpretation. If it's up to me, I would leave that to whatever drummer to do whatever they like with it. So it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of progression. It's a matter of building things. I'm not saying it'll never happen. I'm saying it's in the process of happening. Me hiring someone else to do these parts. I had a bass player do parts for the Jewel Art cover that I did. I have all these different ideas coming out with different drummers, with different keyboard players for covers for videos. So anyway, it's very frustrating to see this kind of argument still taking place and being so apparent and so prominent in YouTube, on the Facebook groups, on the chat forums, everywhere. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's a matter of taste. I think if you hate it, I don't think you should really be that involved in it emotionally, because it's ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. I think it's preposterous to be extremely upset that one band used a kick drum that was sampled instead of the natural sound of their $400 or $500 kit, which would make it a little bit more, legitimate? Are they not legitimate because they are using a sample? And are they legitimate because they wrote it in their garage? Are they legitimate because they wrote it in their bedroom while they were upset? What is legitimate in this moment? And so I hope that I'm expressing myself adequately here. I love the open-mindedness of people who are willing to accept new music, and I think that that's always going to be the way to go forward. Hopefully this won't change as I get older and older, but at the end of the day, I value creativity more than the argument about the tools of expressing it. That's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm getting too heated. I gotta go and edit some videos for a lesson website I'm starting up, so I'm gonna go do that. But if you like this video, hit subscribe, like it, dislike it, talk in the comments. It's all good. I'm just opening up a small discussion. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I've been Paul Oz, and cheers guys. See you next time.